Yes. Okay. Hello and welcome. My name is Sarah Seidelman and I welcome you. This is what I'm calling the Hummingbird series. We are going to visit some of the most sweet, wonderful, awesome resources around. And I want to introduce you to my friend, Anna Kunnecke. Anna, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome.
So Anna, I'm so happy to have you here. So Anna and I met years ago. We were both doing a speaking gig at a Martha Beck coaching event. And she's a Martha Beck coach and an amazing human and a mother of 5 kids. And if you've ever had a belief that somehow you're too overwhelmed to get anything done, think of my friend Anna, because this woman is getting things done despite the fact that she has 5 young children and lives in the tundra where it's very cold. So I wanted to have her on because she's really an expert in helping people like me, who are what I like to say born to freak, irrepressible. Maybe you've been diagnosed with ADHD, or you haven't been diagnosed, but you suspect because you're constantly losing your keys or possibly being late or having trouble finishing things. If that's you, what Anna has to share with you will be really helpful, because she helps to, I'm going to let her talk about how she helps, but that's really why I wanted to have her on, and plus she's just amazing. So Anna, talk to us a little bit about, I know you have something coming up soon that you're going to be sharing, like a free challenge to get people psyched up. But talk about what you do and how you do that magic.
Sure. So, Sarah, I think you and I have very similar brains. I've never gotten an official diagnosis of ADD or ADHD, but every time I read the books about it, I'm like, oh, that's me to a T. And I just, it's funny, and this is true for so many of the women who I end up working with, is that they're so smart. Like, truly, I have women in my programs who are like neurobiologists. I don't even really know what they do. And they're professors and they're therapists and they're engineers and producers. Like, they do these really crazy hard jobs. They don't like, they do them with style and panache. They make it look easy, but they cannot keep groceries in the house for anything, or they can't balance their checkbook, or they have lost 72 phones this year, or, you know what I mean? Like, their colleagues love them, but they're always screwing up their appointments. They're like double booking themselves. Like, it's funny. It's like, they're so smart in these kind of more esoteric realms. But when it comes to the physical world of like running a household, running your life, keeping on top of your money and your time and your physical belongings, that is really, really hard for them. And that describes me too. Like, I can, I work with women, right? I'm a coach. And so I dive into some of people's trickiest, most challenging, murkiest situations of their lives. There are tears sometimes, there's laughter too, but like bring that on. I can do that all day long. I love it. No problem. Make me try and balance a checkbook. I'll cry. I will fall on the floor. I can't do it. But I ended up creating this program. It's called the Queen Sweep Masterclass. And it's around this idea that some of us just aren't wired like other people. We are maybe more creative. We tend to think more intuitively and holistically than logically and linearly. And honestly, some of my favorite people fall into that designation. But what I realized was that some of the smartest, most interesting people I knew were having the hardest time navigating like everyday life. And this was definitely me too. I created this program out of dire necessity. I was a new mom. I had a baby. I was living in a small, like very tiny studio apartment in Tokyo. I had 3 kind of different careers going because I had sort of switched right before I had the baby, and my schedule was a nightmare. And I just felt like I was going to lose my mind. And so because I'm an English major, I read all the books. That was what I did. I stayed up late, even though I was so sleepless. And I read, every book on getting organized, every book on time management. I read Getting Things Done and The Messie's Manual. And I tried Fly Lady, and I, worshiped at the feet of David Allen. And I just read everything trying to figure out my life, because I was like, okay, grown-ups do this. Adults have to figure this stuff out. This shouldn't be this hard. But the problem was that most of those people are writing books about being organized because they themselves are very organized people. They're like innately, inherently organized. And I am not at all. And so I would try and implement these systems, and it made me feel like such a loser because I could never make them stick. add to that, which in all fairness, I think that most of these people kind of forgot all of the invisible labor that possibly is being done by a spouse at home, because I'd like follow this complicated system, right? I'd map out my week and it'd all be color coded and prioritized or, whatever. And then I'd look at it and I'd be like, but wait, what about the children? It was like, you know what I mean? There was this whole aspect of life that didn't seem to factor into any of these marvelous systems.
And can I just say too, a lot of those books I found as an ADHD or whatever, born to freak, whatever you want to call me, myself, you, yourself, if you're that way. And my hunch is if you're watching this, you might be a wee bit that way. Is that they were so unfun. Like they didn't intrigue me. They weren't, and what your work is so beautiful and so poetic, and the words that you use, it gets me excited to do that work that is not easy sometimes. Yeah. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of those very dry organizational books. They don't get you stoked. They just make you think, oh my God, it's more work. It just feels so shackled on.
Right. Whereas the stuff that I have, like come to implement, and it all happened over time, but the stuff that I now teach my Queen Sweepers is that actually it's not about doing more. It's actually about doing less, but it's understanding what are the things that matter. And it turns out there's a whole lot of stuff that you can just ignore. You don't even have to worry about it. So we use the 80-20 principle, which is sometimes called Pareto's law, which says that you get 80% of your results from only 20% of the energy expended. So this is true in business. Many businesses find that 80% of their revenue comes from only 20% of their profits. But it's interesting because it's a principle that plays out in all different areas of life. So in the Queen Suite, we apply this to our homes because most of us sit in the same like 3 or 4 spots, 80%, maybe even more than that, right? You're sitting in your living room, in your favorite spot on your favorite armchair by the fireplace, which is where I am right now because it's minus 26 degrees today, or you're sitting on the couch in front of the TV, or you're sitting at your desk, or you're standing at your favorite spot in the kitchen where you always cut vegetables for dinner. Most of us don't use all of our homes. We use a few spots again and again and again. So what happens is that when you transform those spots and you make them not just functional and streamlined and, efficient, but you make them beautiful and inspiring, it feels like your whole life has changed, but you've actually really only tackled maybe like a 4 by 6 foot physical space. So you don't have to do everything, right? You don't have to like go through every single drawer and, every single bookshelf and go through the horrible garage. Like, don't start there. That's like walking up to a 600-pound weight when you've never lifted weights before and trying to pick it up. So we start with really, really easy stuff. So we work on like, pick one spot in your home that you use all the time. And, my motto is less clutter, more beauty. So we do the hard thing. We clear out the clutter, whatever's gunking up the works, but then we bring in beauty. So some of that is things like knowing what matters to you. For me, it's flowers. I always have flowers in my house. Some people don't care about flowers at all. They like antique car figurines or, whatever floats their boat. But we clear out the clutter and then we bring in beauty. And when you do that in tiny little ways, like really, I'm talking like 5-minute exercises, what happens is that those little pockets of order and beauty they nourish you. They fill you up. They make you feel better about yourself. They help you be more focused because you don't have all these things jostling for your visual attention. And what happens is that you're able to make that kind of spread. So we do it on the physical level in people's homes. And then we go into their closets and work on their wardrobes. We look at money. I help them set up systems to handle paper, which is like the nemesis of so many creative people, right?
Yes.
And again, like there's a way to make it simpler. Not easy. I'm never going to say it's easy, but it can be really simple. And if you know the right questions to ask yourself, it doesn't have to be so agonizing. It's just that there's this question you ask and the answer is either yes or no. And that determines it goes here or it goes here, and it's sort of straightforward. So I love an elegant solution, if you can do something with like, why have 16 different kitchen machines if you can get it done with like one really great knife and a wooden cutting board So anyway, I'm a huge fan of like the elegant solution. So in the Queen Suite, we use really simple but very powerful, effective systems to kind of cut through all the noise. So you do fewer things, but it's really transformative. People's lives start to bloom with beauty. They clear out a lot of the physical clutter that's gunking up their space. And it turns out that what people don't often realize is that The physical clutter is like stealing your brain. It's like stealing your focus. It's stealing your creativity. Because if you imagine, if you're like, well, here, I'll give you an example. Here's my 4-year-old's little toy station. So that's all contained and it's hers and I don't need to worry about it. But imagine if every time I walked by there, I had this important piece of paper that was like stuck in that car. And then I also had this bag of things that needed to go back to the store. And then I also had this form that needed to go back to the school. And every time I walked by there, it would be like those things were like shouting at me. They're like, don't forget me. I'm here. I'm important. I'm probably late. You're kind of bad at life. And so it's like when you have all this stuff sitting around your physical space, it's like they're needling you all the time. They're poking at you with these messages of stress and urgency and loserdom, you know?
Yeah. And I know that, I mean, from my own personal experience, when you start really wanting to change your life, and I mean, just going back to like 8 or 9 years ago when I kind of started on my crazy journey of transformation, I mean, there's a real strong desire sometimes that comes first, which is you just want to change how you're living. You maybe it's what you're wearing, maybe it's how the kitchen, you're just done, and you need to, because our homes and our spaces are a metaphor for how we're feeling inside, which sometimes like, not that I'm not saying like that I want my house to be absolutely perfect in every way, but when I have systems like the ones that Anna's talking about, and there's certain places that I can go and experience peace, it's just like, it supports me on everything I'm doing. And so it's powerful just to have a guide and a community. And I think that's the beauty of your programs, is that you join people together and you just to know that you're not alone. There are so many brilliant, smart, creative people out there that are struggling with the same overwhelm that you are, if you're feeling that way right now. And so, yeah, we need each other.
Yeah, and often the things that we say to ourselves in our head are so mean. We would never tell our colleague or friend or child or, you know, like, oh, what's the matter with you? You're just so stupid. You just suck at life. We never say that, but we say totally cruel things to ourselves all the time. Yeah. So having that community really helps shift that. And there are people in that community who've been sweeping for like, some of them 7 or 8 years at this point.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool. So it's just this warm, supportive, like amazing group of people.
So tell us, I know you have like a free challenge coming up, like is it a week long or 2 weeks long or something? Okay.
So it's 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a 1 week challenge. It's completely free. It's called the Take Back Your Life Challenge.
Okay. Awesome.
Because I know that so many of us sometimes feel like life is like charging across the tundra and we're like holding on for dear life and it's sort of dragging us along. And my secret mission is a global takeover by the wise women. And if we feel like we're being dragged along by our lives, we're not going to be out there doing our epic shizzle, as Sarah would call it.
Amen, right? Sister. Yes, I love it.
So for 1 week, we're going to do really doable, super easy, super tangible things every single day. And I urge you to try it. Even if you do it just as an experiment, if you're like, this woman is crazy, there's no way one little thing a day could possibly make a difference. Give me a week and see if I can't change your mind, because I bet I can.
Bet she can too. She's changed my life in like 5 minutes. Every time I talk with her, I learn something amazing. So thank you so much, Anna Kunnecke, for coming. And thank you all for watching. And mwah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. Everybody.